welcome back to the Amplified Podcast. I am your host, Jac Carnett, as always. We are going through the book of Genesis together. And so if this is your first time watching, welcome. I highly recommend you go back and watch the earlier podcasts. And if you're listening, that's great, but you won't be able to see what I'm doing with this right now. And so I highly recommend you go back and watch the first few podcasts so that you can see all the genealogies and the names, and it's a bit like coming into a story right in the middle, which is, well, that's exactly what it is. But I'm sure you'll learn something from today. And today we're going to be covering Genesis 28 and Genesis 29. As we talked about in the last few podcasts, the whole kind of Old Testament is really just following from Adam. You can't see that at all. From Adam all the way down to Jesus. Jesus is kind of the highlight of, you can't see that either. Jesus is kind of the highlights of the New Testament. And we're following the family line that goes from Adam to Jesus. And we've seen Noah and we've seen Abraham. And now we're dealing with Isaac and we're dealing with Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are grandfather, son, and grandson in that order. And so have father, son, and grandson. But Noah is a few generations back. Of course, Adam is a number of generations back before Noah. But suffice to say, we're following the Israelites around, and we're actually going to start to see Israel build in these chapters. And so if you were here with us last time, a quick recap. We saw Esau is the firstborn of Isaac and is the one who is supposed to get the blessing and supposed to be the blessed firstborn, but Jacob steals that away. He steals away his birthright as the firstborn son, so now for all intents and purposes, Jacob, even though he's the secondborn of these twins, is the firstborn, and that's with help of, he did that on his own, but then he steals the blessing from his father, Isaac, that he was giving right before he was going to die. It was supposed to go to Esau, his favorite, but Jacob, with help of his mother, of course, Isaac's wife, Rebecca, he steals it away with deceptively. And you'll have to watch the previous episode to see how that happens. But suffice to say, Esau is really, really ticked off at this point, enough that he is consoling himself with the fact that he is going to kill his brother as soon as Isaac dies. Now, Isaac's not dead yet, so Rebecca tells Jacob, you got to leave town. You should go and live with your uncle, my brother, Laban. Marry someone out there, stay out there until I send for you. When I do, that's because Esau's anger has subsided. And so Isaac actually gives kind of a lesser blessing to Esau because, what he's said to Jacob has already been said. He can't take it back. And he tells him, your dwelling shall be away from the fertility of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven. You shall live by the sword and serve your brother. So kind of a curse at this point. But he also tells him, when it comes to pass that you break loose of your anger and hatred, when you can finally forgive and let go of this thing that has been done to you, at that point you will tear his yoke off of your neck and you'll be free of him. You'll be free of this living in his shadow, essentially. And so that's what we've seen up until now, that blessings are irrevocable and they're passed down through the generations. And that's certainly true in my family. And speaking of my family today is a Saturday. Of course, hopefully you're watching this on a Monday or whenever you're watching this, but this is a Saturday in June. And my cousin Jace and his fiance Maggie are getting married today. So I want to say congratulations to Jace and Maggie. I wish that I could be there. Living across the country is sometimes it makes things far more difficult. And so I wish I could be there. And as I told you on the phone, marriage is the greatest gift of all time. And so I just want to wish you a wonderful wedding. And I hope all my family that's there has a great time as well. And I hope you have a wonderful wedding day today. It's a beautiful day. If you see my dog walking around and she looks damp, it's because once again, if you're keeping count, this is now twice, she's been sprayed with a skunk that is living in the neighborhood right now. And I don't really know what to do about it, to be honest. I could catch it, but if I catch it, I run the risk of me getting sprayed, which would be even worse, because as hard as it's been to get off of her, if it was on me, it would be even worse. And so she got bathed twice again today with some heavier duty shampoo. Honestly, if I was living in Jacob and Esau's time, I don't know what I would do. I know tomatoes is the normal thing, but I did tomatoes. It didn't really help. So, life, I guess. So let's get into it. Let's get into Genesis 28 and Genesis 29. So Jacob is being sent away, but before he, leaves, he's going to tell his father goodbye. He's going to speak to his father. He's not just going to run out. So it says this. This is the Amplified Podcast. We're reading from the Amplified Bible. And you could also be reading from, if you bought some of the Alabaster Bibles, they're not a sponsor, which they really were. But those Bibles are awesome if you just need something aesthetic to look at while you're reading scripture. Those are fantastic. And so, Genesis 28, verse 1, it says this. So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said, "You shall not marry one of the women of Canaan. Arise and go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your father's or your mother's father, and take from there as a wife for yourself one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother." So he's sending him away. He knows that his mother is right, that he should be leaving this, this modern area of Israel where they live down here. He's sending him far away back to where his family lived previously. This would have been Abraham's family, all the way up into kind of modern day Turkey, I believe. I think that's modern day Turkey. But north of Israel, north of the Fertile Crescent. And he goes up there and he lives up there and he serves his uncle Laban. "May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you so that you may become a great company of many peoples." So again, this is not, we see these boys do all kinds of stuff that it's the fact that God is blessing them is not an endorsement of what they are doing. It's simply the fact that blessings are irrevocable. We've talked about this before. That once something is said, once something has been blessed, God is going to hold up his end of the deal, even if we don't. So these blessings that Isaac has spoken over him, I hope that all of the blessings of Abraham and me are passed down to you and you become a father of many nations. And so God is honoring what Isaac has said, even though it was stolen deceitfully. God is honoring the fact that this deal was made between Jacob and Esau, even though it was a dirty deal at the time. It still happened. You're adults. And so God is going to honor it. And the blessings that he passed down to Abraham and Isaac are now being passed to Jacob, and they're irrevocable. So it says, "May God Almighty bless you, make you fruitful, and multiply you so that you may become a great company of peoples. May he also give you the blessing of Abraham to your descendants with you so that you may inherit the promised land of your sojournings, which he gave to Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob away went to Padan Aram to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. So all that to say, he's going to live with his uncle. Okay. Now Esau noticed that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife for himself. A wife for himself from there. And that as he blessed him, he gave him a prohibition saying, "You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan." And Jacob obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Padan Aram. So Esau realized that his two wives, the daughters of Canaan, displeased Isaac, his father. I don't know how he didn't see this before now. We talked about this at the very end of the last two chapters. That these two Canaanite women that he's married to are really becoming a thorn in the side of his parents. I don't know why this is suddenly not working. Oh, it's color switched. But suffice it to say, they are. And they are a thorn in his parents' side. They are, I guess what you would expect from difficult family members. And so he goes out, as it says here. So Esau realized his 2 daughters of Canaan displeased Isaac his father, and to appease his parents, Esau went to the family of Ishmael. This is his uncle as well on Isaac's side. And in addition to the wives he already had, it's to the family of Ishmael, and took as a wife, in addition to the wives he already had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. They don't really teach you how to read these names in a master's program. You just kind of have to do your best. Nebaioth, Ishmael's firstborn son. So, when I was growing up, one of my favorite bands is called Reliant K, and they have an album that's titled Two Wrongs Don't Make a Right, but Three Do. And it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek there, but I guess this idea that, I can stack one more wrong thing on top of this, and hopefully that will make it better. Again, not an endorsement of what he's doing, the fact that God is still blessing this family. It's simple fact that God is recognizing the faithfulness of Abraham and the greater faithfulness of their family as a whole, more than he is these individual moments where they're getting things wrong. And so it's not an endorsement of polygamy, but suffice to say it happens, and the Bible tells us what it tells us. And so Esau takes on a third wife, whose name actually means, I have it right here. Her name means, I thought I had it right here. Give me just a moment. Okay, I found it. So Mahalath means sickness or possibly harp. It could be because she was a dancer at the time. It could be that maybe she was sickly later on, or maybe she was as a baby. But he marries a third woman in this case, and so that's what we know about Esau for now. Now Jacob left Beersheba never to see his mother again, and traveled toward Haran. So he's moving north, and I have written in my own Bible that this is really a fitting punishment for his mother's deception. And so everything that was meant for her first son Esau, she has stolen and given now to Jacob. And as a result, she had to send him away so that Esau wouldn't kill him. And because she has to send him away, she never sees him again. It's kind of the law of unintended consequences, that she never intended for her to never see her son again. But the fact of the matter is, had she not been deceptive, she could have seen her son possibly get married, possibly raise grandkids, but she made this decision, and so she doesn't get to see that part of her family for the rest of her life. And that's, when you choose to be deceptive, that's oftentimes the case. And he came to a certain place and stayed overnight there because the sun had set. And taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down there to sleep. He dreamed that there was a ladder, a stairway placed on the earth, and on top of it, it reached out of sight toward heaven, and he saw angels of God ascending and descending on it, going to and from heaven. And behold, the Lord stood above and around him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father's father, the God of Isaac. I will give to you and to your descendants the land of promise on which you are lying here now. So let's look at our map really quick. Let's zoom in here. They had been living in the south here near the Dead Sea in Beersheba. But as he's traveling north, he gets to, kind of middle between the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. We get to Bethel right here. He goes down to sleep for the night, and the Lord meets him in a dream and tells him that I am the one who's been the God of your father, who is the God of your grandfather, and the blessings that I gave to them, I'm going to pass down to you, and I will give you all of this land. So the Lord's promising him Israel once again. He's keeping it in the family. And really what the Lord's just asking for is faithfulness to him. Like, if you will If you will not serve the other gods, I will continue to give this to you. And it says this, your descendants shall be countless as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed through your descendants. This is a blessing on the Jews, but also it is a prophecy of Jesus who is to come, who is the blessing for all of the world, because anyone at any time from any place, anywhere in the world, can accept Jesus and live in eternity in joy with him, which is what heaven is. So it says this, behold, I'm with you, and you will keep careful watch, and I will keep careful watch over you and guard you wherever you may go, and I will bring you back to this promised land. So obviously he's being sent away to run away from his brother, but God is promising him that he will come back to this place. He is going to come back someday. For I will not leave you until I've done what I've promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep, and he said, without any doubt, the Lord is in this place, and I did not realize it. I think we see the opposite in a lot of places today, where he was in a place and he didn't realize God was there. But oftentimes today we go to places where we think God is, when in reality he's not there. And there are a lot of apostate churches. There are a lot of churches that are more concerned with other things than actually inviting Jesus and this presence of God into the room. And so my hope is that you would find a church where you can walk in and know, not because of the art on the wall, not because of the sound system, not because of the liturgy, but know in your hearts and know in your spirit that Jesus is in this room here today. And so that's what he's realizing here, that without any doubt, the Lord is in this place, and I did not realize it. And my hope for you today is that you would be conscious of the presence of God, where he is and where his presence is not. This is not to say that God's not watching over you when you go to and fro to this place, to that place, but there are places that God has anointed with his presence and with his glory, and there are places that maybe were like that a long time ago, but have lost that. And so choose the church that you go to carefully. Then Jacob woke. I read that several times. So verse 17, so he was afraid and said, how fearful and awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gateway to heaven. So this is where we get the idea of Jacob's ladder going to heaven. It's translated as ladder, but honestly, a better translation is a step pyramid going up to heaven. And this is really what's meant by the writers. And so basically, this is the place where it seems the angels from heaven are leaving earth and going back to heaven, or leaving heaven and coming to earth here in this place, in the spirit, of course, in the spirit. But Jacob is given eyes to see this place for just a moment, and he consecrates the place, and we're going to see exactly how. So he's afraid and said, how awesome and fearful is this place? This is another in the house of God, and this is a gateway to heaven. So Jacob got up early in the morning and took the stone he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar. So we have the stone here, set up as a pillar that is a monument to the vision in his dream, and he poured olive oil on top of it. So let's see if I can draw a drop. That's horrible drawing, but suffice to say it's olive oil. Okay. On the top of it to consecrate it. And he named that place Bethel, the house of God. The previous name of that city was Luz Almond Tree. So I guess these guys, if they're important enough, they can just walk around renaming places, and that name just sticks forever. In this case, it worked. And so then Jacob made a vow to God, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me on this journey that I take, and will give me food to eat and clothing to wear, and if he grants that I return to my father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. He's making this promise to the Lord, but almost like he's like putting the Lord to the test. Like, okay, the Lord promised all these things to me. If he does hold up his end of the deal, then I will serve him forever. And if he grants that I return to the Father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. This stone, which I have set up as a pillar, a monument, a memorial, will be God's house, a sacred place to me. And of everything that you give me, I will give a tenth to you as an offering to signify my gratitude and dependence on you. So, again, this is a lesson in the tithe. We give the first 10% of everything that we make. I mean, literally the money that we make. We take, let's say if you made $100, before you give, your 15% to taxes, leaving you $85 left. Before that even happens, we take 10%, which in this case would be $10, and we give that to God's house. So Bethel, give that to God's house. That's whatever church you go to. We give to God before we give to the governments, and it's a great policy to have. And we see that being done. This has been done for hundreds of generations right here in the story. So, chapter 29. Then Jacob went on his way and came to the land of the people of the east near Haran. So he's traveling north, he's traveling east away to get away from his brother. As he looked, he saw a well in the field. How about that? A well, we're going to see several times in the Bible, men come and meet specific women at the well. We saw Isaac met Rebekah at the well. Now Jacob's meeting Rachel at the well. We see Moses meet Zipporah at the well. We see Jesus meet the woman at the well, obviously. And so there's something specific about going to the place where there is water. As he looked, he saw a well in the field and 3 flocks of sheep lying there, resting beside it because the flocks were watered from that well. Now the stone on the mouth of the well that covered and protected it was large. And when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well, water the sheep, and afterward return the stone to the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We're from Haran." So he said to them, "Do you know Laban, the grandson of Nahor, Abraham's brother?" And they replied, Yeah, we know him. We're familiar. And he asked them, how is he? Is it going well with him? How's he doing? They said, he's doing well. Look. And in fact, here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep. Jacob said, "Look, the sun is still high overhead. It's going to be a long time before the flocks need to be gathered into the fold for the night. Water the sheep and go, and I will return them to the pasture." But they said, "We cannot leave until all the flocks are gathered together." The shepherds rolled a stone from the mouth of the well, then we will water the sheep. So they're just talking about, what they're going to be doing for the day now that they're here at the well. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. So she herself is a shepherd. And when Jacob saw his cousin Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and Laban's sheep, he came up and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of Laban, his uncle. So we saw that his mother watered Isaac's camels, but in this case, Jacob is the one taking the initiative and watering Rachel's sheep in this case. Then Jacob kissed Rachel in greeting her, and he raised his voice and wept. I'm not really sure why he does this. My best guess is that he knows that he is there running away. He's probably in a very emotional state. He's probably been sent. I don't know if he's been sent with nothing at this case. In this case, his family is extremely wealthy, but obviously he's on the run from his brother. But he has this incredible blessing. He's been sent there to take a wife from a distant part of his family that worships the Lord. And then he sees, the moment that he arrives, this beautiful woman coming up to him. I'm assuming that he certainly thinks she's beautiful, as we'll find out. And it could be that he's just so overwhelmed with emotion at this point. He's now seeing this woman who he's going to pursue as his wife. She's probably beautiful. He's just so overwhelmed with the blessing of God that he has lived a deceptive life. And yet God has been so faithful to him to bless him even more so. Not because he's been deceptive, but because God is still faithful even when we are sinful. Then Jacob kissed Rachel in greeting her, and he raised his voice and wept. Then Jacob told Rachel he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. So he's telling her, hey, by the way, we're cousins. When Laban heard of the arrival of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him. He embraced him, he kissed him, and brought him into the house. Then he told Laban all these things. And so obviously the family ties run deep here. Again, this is not an endorsement of the fact that they're marrying within the family. This is simply showing their loyalty to marry someone who worships the Lord, who does not worship all these other Canaanite gods and get into human sacrifice and homosexuality and all these other things that the Canaanites were well known for. And, being with the giants, they're wanting to be set apart, very much so. And this is really one of the last times we see a character in the Bible marry within their family like this, especially this close. Again, this is far, far in the distant past when genetically this wouldn't cause as much trouble. But I still don't think it's great. Obviously, it was horrible when Lot's daughters had children with their father Lot. That was a horrible thing. But I guess cousins seem to being far enough apart at this point, and then they're just going to get farther out from here, obviously. And then the Lord actually writes it down in the law. So it's a very good chance that he didn't think this was a great idea to begin with, them being cousins, but this is where we are. They're wanting to be faithful to the Lord. Jacob told Rachel that he was his father's relative. Okay, verse 14. Then Laban said to him, you are my bone and my flesh. And Jacob stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, just because you are my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. So, hey, you're living in my house. I'm not going to not pay you just because we're family. What do you think I owe you? What's a fair wage? Now, Laban had 2 daughters. The older one was Leah, and the younger one was Rachel. Rachel Geller. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Leah's eyes were weak. Now, this could mean that, she had thick Coke bottle glasses. It could mean that she was tough to look at, to be honest. Made your eyes weak to look at her. She's really got a face for radio, as they would say. Could also mean that she just couldn't see very well. And obviously, she is not as beautiful as her sister Rachel, because Jacob is immediately fawning all over Rachel. Leah's eyes are weak, but Rachel is beautiful in form and appearance. Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you as a hired workman for 7 years in return for the privilege of marrying Rachel, your younger daughter. So he's saying, I don't care what you pay me, just please let me marry Rachel. That is good enough for me. That's good enough for me. So Laban agrees. Laban said, it is better that I give her in marriage to you than to give her to another man, stay and work with me. So I guess he's seen the character of Jacob. He likes him, saying, I'd rather have you than anybody else. So Jacob served Laban for 7 years for the right to marry Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. So this is where the Bible does get a bit romantic in this case. All this time goes by quick because they're in love and he's courting her this whole time. It's very much probably a rom-com at this point. But this is what's interesting about the Bible, is that because we get to see so much time, I literally mean so much of timelines of people's lives, we get to see how the seeds that they plant in their life with their actions, how those actions reap, or so you plant and then you harvest, what those actions become in a harvest later on. So we're very familiar with, we'll say, results. We're very familiar with the idea of if you plant potatoes, you're going to get potatoes. If you plant strawberries, you're going to get strawberries. If you plant apples, you're going to get apples. I think it also goes the same in our actions and in the spirit. So if you are willing to be faithful to Jesus in your life, you are going to receive faithfulness in return as time goes on throughout your family. If you are willing to plant sobriety in your life, no doubt, this is not a guarantee, but your children are far more likely to live sober lives as a result. In Jacob's case, if you're going to plant deception and act deceptively in your life, do not be surprised. I spelled harvest wrong. Do not be surprised if you reap and if you harvest deception through other people or through your family in your life. It's kind of like you get what you get. What goes around comes around in this case. And we're going to see exactly that with Laban here. So finally, Jacob said to Laban, let me take a drink just a moment. Arnold Palmer, if you would like to be a sponsor, you can be as well. Verse 21. Finally, Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife, for the time of service is completed, so that I may take her to me as my wife. So Laban gathered together all the men in the place and prepared a wedding feast with wine. Okay, it's going to be important here in a moment. But in the evening, very deceptively, he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob went in to consummate the marriage with her. I don't know how to say this and be PG about it. When it was time to hand off Leah, or hand off the daughter for them to sleep together for the first time, Laban gives him Leah instead of Rachel. Laban also gave Zilpah, his maid, to his daughter Leah as a maid. So all these prominent women seem to have maids that kind of go with them wherever they go. So you kind of get, all these guys kind of get two for the price of one. But in the morning when Jacob awoke, it was Leah who was with him. And he said to Laban, what is this you have done to me? Did I not work for you for 7 years for Rachel? Why have you deceived me and betrayed me like this? All right. Now, I'm no expert, okay? But I feel like if you're around these two sisters for 7 years, even if they're twins, okay, you should be able to tell the difference between the two, okay? You should know it's, after 7 years living in the same house, you should be able to know which one's walking down the hallway by the sound of their gait. You should be able to know definitely which one is which by the sound of their voice, let alone what they look like. Obviously, apparently Leah was pretty tough on the eyes and Rachel was extremely beautiful. So dude should know the difference between the two. And I think that's why the Amplified Bible adds in with wine when it talks about the wedding feast. My only option here is to say that Jacob had to be pretty hammered at this point where he is willing to consummate the marriage with Leah, believing that he's consummating the marriage with Rachel. You got to be not 3 sheets to the wind, but 4 sheets to the wind, man. You got to be pretty hammered. And so he wakes up the next morning, I'm guessing pretty hungover, and has like an HBO, like, what are you doing here kind of moment. And he looks at Leah, and Laban has been deceptive. And so it's kind of like the student meets the master for the first time of deception. And Laban said, is it not the tradition here, to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older? It is not the tradition here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older. So he's like, now you tell me that you had to give away your older daughter in marriage before the younger daughter could get married? Are you kidding me? So Laban tells him, finish out the week. Apparently marriages, wedding days lasted a full week at this point. Finish the week of wedding feast for Leah. Then we will give you Rachel also, and in return you shall work for me 7 more years. So basically, I gotcha. And if you really want Rachel, you're going to have to give me 7 more years. I'll still give her to you at the end of the week, but you got to give me 7 more years. So Jacob has planted deception, and now he is harvesting deception from other people. If you're going to hang out with deceptive people, don't be surprised if someday you are then deceived, okay? This is like a movie happening here, okay? So Jacob complied and fulfilled Leah's week of celebration. Then Laban gave him his second daughter, Rachel, as his second wife. Laban also gave Bilhah, his maid, to his daughter Rachel as a maid. So now, for all intents and purposes, we have Jacob, who is married to 4 different women, because in that time, they come with these nurses, these wet nurses, these maids, and you, as we're going to find out, you get to enjoy all the parts of marriage with all of them in this case. So he's went into this believing he would get 1, and now he's gotten 4. So Jacob consummated his marriage and lived with Rachel. Obviously, he loves Rachel more. Rachel's the one that he wanted to marry all along. But now he's married to all 4 of them. So we have Jacob at the top here. Jacob is married to Leah first and Rachel second. They have each of their maids. I'm going to put them off to the side. We have Bilhah for Rachel, and we have Zilpah for Leah. Zilpah. So now Jacob's with all 4 of them, essentially. Lived with Rachel as his wife, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. So now he's been here by the end of this, he's been here for 14 years at this point. Now when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he made her able to bear children, but Rachel was barren. So they're not able to have children with Rachel at this point. But God has pity on Leah because it's not her fault. None of this is her fault. Apparently she wasn't as beautiful as Rachel, and she's given deceptively. I don't know if she went in without a fight, or if, I'm sure that she wasn't happy to be, second best. But the Lord has pity on her, and it says, Leah conceived and gave birth to a son and named him Reuben. See, a son. That's what Reuben means, I'm supposing. See, a son. Reuben is can't finish a word today. Reuben is number 1. Then we have, named him Reuben, see a son, for she said, because the Lord has seen my humiliation and my suffering, now my husband will love me, since I have given him a son. That's what she's thinking. Now Jacob's going to love me, now that I've given him an heir. Then she conceived again and gave birth to another son, and said, because the Lord heard that I am unloved. So now, the first plan didn't work out. She's still unloved. She's still second best. And we see her give birth to a second son. And he has given me a son also. So she named him Simeon. God hears. That's what Simeon means. God hears. She conceived again and gave birth to a son, and said, now this time my husband will become attached to me. So she's still desiring the love of her husband, rightfully so, all along. Attached to me, a companion, for I've given him 3 sons, and she named him Levi. And again she gave birth to a 4th son, and she said, now I will praise the Lord. So she named him Judah. Then for a time she had stopped bearing children. So the first 4 sons of Jacob all come from Leah. And if these names look familiar, if you've been in church for any length of time, it's because these are the first 4 tribes of Israel. Technically not Reuben, actually. Technically not Levi, and we're going to see why here in the future, but definitely Simeon and definitely Judah. And of course, we know that Jesus comes from the sons of Judah. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And so we see, we're going to see why Reuben is not given his own tribe. We're also going to see why Levi technically doesn't have his own tribe. Kind of does, kind of doesn't. But again, we learn the word hesed in the Bible. It means the loving kindness of God. It's anything God does that is above and beyond what is expected of him. And so let's say, for instance, the number 3 is very important in the Bible. It's expected that she might bear at least 3 children, and yet God has given her 4 children. 4 children. God has gone above and beyond. And we see that the above and beyond is Judah, who is the above and beyond for us today, and it's Jesus. And so we're going to see it's so important to study the lives of these boys over the next few chapters, because basically the seeds that these boys sow in their lifetimes, that they plant, how the actions that they take over the course of their lives are going to basically have their fruition and have their results in the greater tribes of Israel over the course of the rest of history. Basically what they do kind of sets the stage for how their tribe is, the personality of their tribe for the rest of history. And so Judah becomes extremely important. Levi becomes extremely important. And we're going to see the sons of Rachel soon, and the sons of Zilpah and the sons of Bilhah here soon as well. And so Jacob is going to fulfill this blessing that God has promised to Abraham, that came down through Isaac as well, that he's going to be father of many nations, father of all these tribes. And so that's the end for today. It's kind of a cliffhanger at this point. The next few chapters are so interesting with how these boys behave. And we're going to get to dive into that in the next few chapters. And so, again, this has been the Amplified Podcast. I'm very glad you were with us today. Please like and subscribe. I hate saying that because I sound like every other streamer out there, but it really does help us. It helps us, build up the podcast so that other people can see it and more people can hear about the scripture. And we're glad you had you with us today. Please, if you have any questions at all, please leave comments and I will try to answer them in the coming podcast. But until then, we will see you later.